everyone. Welcome to Rollin with the Golden Oldies. The Golden Oldies, that's us. The lovely women who have been in wheelchairs longer than your average wheelchair user. So we have that much more wisdom. At least that's what we're claiming. So I'm Julienne Dallara. You normally know me without a tiara, but at the Abilities Expo in LA, I got voted in as Ms. Wheelchair California.
Yeah.
Yay!
Oh!
Congratulations, Your Majesty.
As far as I understand so far, means advocacy and telling other people what to do, which comes naturally to me.
There you
So,
go.
for this next hour, we are going to be talking about April showers, and I will pass it along to Michelle to introduce herself and explain more.
Hey guys, I'm Michele Altamirano. Thank you for joining us again today. And yes, April showers in SCI terms is bladder function and use of catheters and all our wonderful experiences in the past several years. So, welcome. Mickie.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Mickie Fowler. I live in Claremont, California. I was injured 40 years ago, January 21st, the same day, but a year later after Ellen. And I'm a 1011 paraplegic. And yeah, I have a lot of bladder stories to share.
Hi, I am Ellen Stohl, and I was injured 41 years ago on January 20th, and have watched bladder health and technology increase, and a lot of stories, and not only the physiological issues that come with bladder health, but a lot of the psychological and emotional issues
Oh,
dealing with
yeah.
bladder functions, and how that impacts relationships. So I think it's a good story, not just for people with SCI, but anybody who pees, because I think that's all of us. Everybody pees. So dealing with our bodily functions is so important, and we live in a puritanistic society that often shrouds bodily functions with shame, and then having to deal with that can create a lot of issues. So that's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah. It's like talk
I
about
think
being humbled when you get a spinal cord injury, it's all poop.
well, it
Oh,
starts
it
way back
really
when if you wet your bed or you're in kindergarten and you have, you pee on your chair or
Yeah.
God forbid you poop. So
Yeah.
Ellen is absolutely right. I don't know if other societies are different, but you get shamed from the get-go.
Yeah.
And growing up, I certainly never thought that adults ever did that. No adult would ever lose control of their bladder. No, that's just a kid thing.
Mhm.
Mhm.
yes,
And then
and
all
you're
women
a
as
kid.
yeah. And even women without disabilities, as we age, we all start to have the little leaks, and it's just natural, just our
You know what's
bodies.
ironic is I was a bedwetter when I was young. And apparently it
Ah,
was genetic because my grandmother was and my father was. And ironic though that I ended up being, losing control of my bladder because of an
yeah,
injury, where that was meant that more mental. I don't even know what the reason was. We never got into that. Should have had
yeah,
therapy, but it finally went away.
But I would say, when people ask about the hardest thing about spinal cord injury, and they always assume it's not walking.
yeah.
And I was like, yeah, the not walking, you fix with a wheelchair, right? You
That's
learn
the
your mobility,
least of our.
really bladder and bowel control that as I was 18, almost 19, to lose my bladder control and my bowel control, and just humiliating and shameful. And I had enough sensation. I would crede, but I'd have to wear, and I still do wear protective clothing just because I want to not have to worry about it. But the
Yeah.
shame that went with it, I remember being on a date with somebody, and we were on the couch, and they were like, feeling me up, and their hands were going down, and I was like, no, 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 because I had pads on, and I was just like so
Yeah.
humiliated to even talk about it. And I thought, man, this is like, how are you? Let me just say, you have to be able to talk about bodily functions, but our society really does
Doesn't.
shroud it in shame. So I know for me, that was one of the hardest things to come to terms with. And then you realize as everybody ages, it becomes an issue.
Yeah.
It's really, like, it's not that big of a deal. It's
That's why it
just,
depends on so many diapers. Can you explain what crede means, Ellen? A lot of people probably don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So Crede was what I was learned. So I am an incomplete quad. So I do have sensation and I can feel when I have to go to the bathroom. I don't have the musculature to hold it always when I have to go. So my bladder would spasm. But Crede would be, I would tap my bladder. So you go onto the toilet and instead of capping back then, if I tap it just right and enough in the right way, that's called Crede, and you can trigger the bladder to open. And so it's a tapping method that you can Crede to train, like behavioral training for your bladder. Like I'm tapping you here, you should empty. The problem with Credating, I mean, it worked well. You still had to wear protective clothing because if your bladder got full, it would leak. But it also didn't empty it 100%. So it empties it 90%, but that 10% that's left in there can become the problem because that 10% then is more prone to infection because you're not emptying it. But for me, it was like, oh, I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to have to do that. So I did the Crede method until I learned about intermittent capping.
Okay.
Well, the
So now
technology has changed so much over the years. I mean, I've been in the chair 28 years. So when I was first in rehab, they let me, because I was incomplete, they let me sit on the toilet and I was mind blown that I couldn't go. It's like, come on, you know how to do this. Come on. Nothing happened. So that's when I learned how to self-cath, but they were using those, remember the red robins? The
Oh my God, yes.
torture devices? Yes, but I didn't know any
Literally
difference. So
red rubber.
I was sent home with these things, and we went on
Mhm.
I remember going on a cruise, and I had to bring a box like this of my
Yeah.
catheters because 'cause they're this long and about as thick as a pencil.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I
But they didn't
assumed they
give you
don't
a
use
month's
this anymore.
supply of it. You had to disinfect them with hot water and alcohol and then lay them
Oh,
out to dry
oh,
to use them. Yeah, that was fun.
Well, I
Yeah.
thought they were gone forever, and then when I changed home health agencies about 2 years ago, they said, "Okay, well, we're sending you the Red Robins." The home health agency thought that was the only catheter on the market.
Oh,
That's
did
what
you
we
catch?
thought because that's what they told us in the hospital. You're going to use this. I had no idea there were other
Yeah.
choices available. So you do what they tell you. Oh, use this. So you
When you
do.
use those, Julienne, when you use those, did you cast on the bed into a urinal? No, I
This
mean
is
the
what I
red
use now. So
way
this is a
back when.
big way
Mhm.
back when? No, I always transferred to a toilet.
Okay.
Always, always. So I never used the ones that have the bag attached. I know those are lifesavers for a lot of people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but, for me, they just get in the way.
Yeah.
I want to say hi to Levi, which I believe is Larry, my old friend. Thank you. I don't know how to do my chat on there, but I always Crede, and then and I wore always pads, protective clothing when I went out. And if I was going out to drink, which I did in my youth,
Yeah.
because you half the bathrooms aren't accessible, I would literally
Mhm.
have my protective clothing, put a shucks pad underneath my underwear into my to sort of diaper myself up so that if I had
Yeah.
an accident, I would not be having an accident on my chair. Like literally,
Oh, yeah.
there was no way I was going home with anybody because it was like Fort Knox.
Yeah.
Like, I had
Right.
3 shucks on there and girdle underwear holding it all in and like, oh my, but again, to explain
Chastity
that
belt.
to talk
Right.
about like how do you say I might have an accident, right? So I
Mhm.
know when it comes to sex,
Yeah.
crazy Larry, yes, it is crazy. We used to call Larry crazy Larry. But when it comes to sex, like if you're having sex, your bladder can leak if you have a spinal cord injury. And like, how do you explain that might happen? But then you find out like it doesn't just happen to women with spinal cord injury, it happens to other women. And then you
Other
find
one.
out there are people that like this. They like what's called golden showers, and they find that like
Yes.
a fetish. And you're like, it's not as
And
weird and disgusting as we are so taught to think about it. It comes to
yeah,
communication and talking about it, but
very true.
we don't talk about it, and if you have
Mhm.
an accident, I mean, I have students, I had a student in first grade had wet their pants and they were just humiliated and they just waited. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's no big deal. We just got extra clothes. But that
Yeah.
sense of always that we make fun of people. Red, you wet the
Yeah.
bed. White,
Yeah.
there's poems about it.
Yeah. Okay.
And
What
Well,
do you
so way
use,
back,
Mickie?
what was that, Julienne?
Mickey, don't you use a different system?
Yeah, now I use a suprapubic. So
That's what I
basically, I
thought.
had an operation where I had a tube inserted in my bladder, and I always have it attached to a leg bag, which I keep under my near my stomach. I don't ever have it on my leg because then it'd be a
How
big
far
deal.
on your journey did you switch to that, Mickie?
Only, well, let's see. So I've been in it 40 years. Like it'll be 5 years in November.
Uh-huh.
So before that, I was doing the intermittent catheter, and when I travel, I'd use a Foley. But intermittent, I just got tired of trying to find an accessible bathroom all the time.
Do it all. Yeah.
And the older I get, the harder my transfers were. So this has just been working out for me okay.
Mhm. Yeah. So then going back, I just celebrated my 35th anniversary on the 25th of March. Woohoo. So way back when, yeah, sent you home with those Red Robin catheters, but I have a C6-7 injury. My hand usage is not the greatest. I don't have fine motor control.
Mm-hmm.
So they did teach me to cath, but I needed like 10 pillows and a mirror and a flashlight to be able to cath. So it's like, by the time I went through the whole routine and got up and out, oh, it's almost time to do it all over again. So, and at that time, it's like every 4 hours, every 4 hours. Well, anytime I went out, it was like, oh my God, I'm going to turn into a pumpkin. I got to be back before the 4 hours happen, or I might leak, or yeah. And then lucky me, I have a nervous bladder. So
Oh,
I would very much faster. So then that would cause leakage. So I did that for about a year until I was going to go on a trip. And I asked my doctor, there's no way I can fly like this. And what am I going to do over there? Blah, blah, blah. So he introduced a Foley catheter.
Mm-hmm.
So
ah,
at the of the tip, there's like this is actually a silicone Foley catheter.
Mm-hmm.
And at the bottom, it has like a little balloon that you inflate with sterile water through the top. So the little balloon stays on the inside so it just doesn't slip out or pull out. So I tried that, attached with the leg bag and strapped to my thigh. And I loved the freedom. I mean, I know that's not the ideal way, that they want you to go, but hey, I can be out for more than 4 hours. I don't have to
That's
waste half
that's
of my day,
yeah.
happy to do that.
I'm sorry. That's the whole reason I got my suprapubic. I feel like I have more freedom. I can be out all
Yeah.
day, not worry about it. Just I even keep an empty water bottle in my van if
Yeah,
I have to.
exactly.
And I feel the
And
same
you
way
don't
about
have to use disgusting bathrums at the park or wherever at the fair, wherever you're at.
when
And
you
so
mentioned
I've been using that for,
the mirror. How many of you had it in the rehab? Were told to use a mirror to find where you're supposed to put the catheter. And after a
oh,
while, it's like,
it
okay, I
was
don't need the mirror anymore. I know where it is.
stupid.
I
yeah.
No,
know.
I still need the mirror and my glasses. So I have my
Really?
bath kit that I
Uh-huh.
carry under my chair constantly. It has, because I intermittent. So and I wish they had this before. I get the Botox in the bladder every 6 months. And what it does is relaxes the bladder, and allows it to hold the urine until I intermittent cap. And that's when I started going through the Corday method, where I was tapping. And I also would get bladder spasms, which would cause the leaking. And so they said the Botox will stop that. So and this is the catheter that I have. It's so tiny, but I have to carry, and it made me think I have to get batteries for my flashlight. But I have my mirror,
Yeah.
and it has to have the handle on it so that when I transfer, I can put my legs up, put the mirror where I can see. Because even if I know where it is, sometimes finding there's a lot of inputs in there, so you got to find the
Yeah.
right one. And then my flashlight, and I carry that around. And if like my flashlight is dead right now, so I'm gonna leave it out so I remember to change the battery, because sometime I put it away and I forget to turn it off, and then it's in my path bag and I don't know it. But there are places, and you're right, the bathrooms, you have to find a spot, you have to transfer, get my legs up on the chair, put the mirror so I can see, put my glasses on because now I can't see without my glasses, and do it. And there have been times, I know that I have great girlfriends because we have been traveling to foreign countries and the bathroom is small and it's dark and they'll be like, I'm like, I can't find it. And they're like, here. And they'll help me insert it. Like,
Yeah.
that's a good friend. Like, you are a good friend. But, but I think like Mickie, what you point out and Michele and Juliana is it's individual to what works for the person at the time of the life, and it will evolve to who knows as I get older. Like I am a C56781, but I have more use of my hands, so I can do it. But as I get older, will the catheter, the Foley catheter, be better? Will a super pube be better? Will technology come up with a whole new thing, which is amazing? Because one of the things I did get from Coloplast is they have one of these that is attached to a bag. So when I go camping, I take I get like 5 of those, and they're just about the size of a toothbrush, and the bag is in there. So that if I have to cath because I can't find a bathroom, it caths right into the bag, and then I can just throw the bag away or empty it. And it's like just having that freedom, because I do a lot of camping, is like, okay, if I can't find a clean, decent bathroom, then I can at least cath, somewhere and have it in the bag. I have not had to cath on an airplane. I just limit my intake. And I will say the Botox in the bladder allows me to hold it if I really have to. 8 hours if I need
Now, does
to.
Botox do the same thing as like Ditropan or Mirbetric? Or are they totally different systems?
Well, Botox is shocked. So it's not a happy joy experience. I will tell you that. You have to go in. It depends on how well and long it lasts. But I go in with my urologist, Dr. Pereira, who is amazing in Northridge. And they literally take Botox that you put in your face that relaxes the wrinkles. They do about 40 shots up into your bladder. And so they go up there with whatever they do. And so I don't have to be put under because my dysreflexia doesn't trigger too bad. But I do know some spinal cord injured individuals have to actually go under or take meds beforehand. They don't get the dysreflexia because it's 40 needles going into your bladder. It's not happiness afterwards for a few days, but it relaxes the bladder. So, your bladder can be tight, but it relaxes it. So the urine, it holds a lot of urine, and then you intermittent cath. You have to make sure you intermittent cath and don't, ignore it just because you can. You still need to be on a good.
Does it keep you from leaking?
Yes. Absolutely. It keeps me from leaking, and I'll know that it's time to get it again when I start to leak. Like, oh, now it's time to get it. But it really does keep you from leaking. And if you stay on a regular cath schedule, like if you, go in and do it every 4 to 6 hours, but at night I can sleep all night and not have to do it. So I cath generally right before I go to bed, and I don't have to but I also don't drink a ton of water after 8 o'clock. I mean, I think one of the things with bladder health, it's a catch-22 because you need to drink water to keep your bladder healthy. But the more you drink, the more you have to pee. And for us, pee
play the drinking game. Yeah. If I'm going to go somewhere that's not accessible, I'm not going to drink before then. And maybe I'll start drinking halfway through my evening or whatever it is, or same with a flight,
Michele, I've played different drinking games than that.
This is
Ellen, how often do you have to have the
where you
Botox?
abstain from drinking, and then of course isn't good for you because then it irritates your bladder and all of that, blah blah blah. So the minute I get off the plane, I'm like just chugging down water or whatever it is, and and the thing, just to say, the thing is, I know that a lot of people frown about the indwelling Foley catheter, but as I say, it's worked for me. And the thing is that because the little balloon is in your bladder constantly, it's a little home for bacteria and all of that. But I figure, okay, what's worse? I changed it every 3 to 4 weeks, right? So that's one external insertion, right? As opposed to cathing 4 to 6 times a day in different places. And even though you wash your hands and all of that, germs are everywhere. So it's just as, I think, what's more dangerous. So it's,
It depends. Again, it depends on what works and what doesn't. I get my Botox every 6 months. You can get it as often as 4 months. You can go as long as 8 months. It depends on when you feel the next need to do it. So I just had it done on March 29th, which I was glad because it takes about a week for it to get where it's, because I'm going to Greece on the 18th of April. And I wanted to make that my bladder was like I was at top of the game with the Botox at the beginning of a cycle.
Mhm.
So I love it because I really don't have to worry. I mean, there were times before. Yeah, Olivia had perfect timing. She heard legs up in the air, which is, I mean, that
Yeah.
is one of the things. When I transfer, I have to put both of my legs up onto the chair and literally, be able to see my urethra. And
Yeah.
trust me, I have a very healthy view of my female body parts because I see
Yeah.
them 4 to 5 times a day right in my face. Um, but
Now,
it's not
Goldman
always
511 said that they switched from Ditropan to Gemtesa, and I've never heard of Gemtesa. So thanks, Goldman. I'm going to look that up because
Yeah.
Myrbetriq is very expensive
Yeah.
and
Well,
it's not working
Ellen, does
100%.
insurance pay for all the Botox injections? Insurance pays
Yes,
for
and
everything?
I have LA Care, so and they do pay for the Botox injections because it is bladder health. The nice thing is it allows me to hold. I also cath, which empties my bladder, so I have, knock on wood, not had a a. I mean, what I say to my doctor, because all the time, every time they test my urine, they're like, there's bacteria in your urine. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm a spinal cord injury. There's always bacteria living in
Always.
your urine.
Yeah.
That's just part of spinal cord injury. They found their balance. It's not causing an issue. But they're like, you have to take your antibiotics. But they pay for it, and I find they make me take the antibiotics before the procedure because they're up there with 40 shots in
Yeah.
your hoo-hoo. So you're like, yeah, they should take it. But I really find that taking antibiotics screws up the balance that the bacteria that always lives there
Yeah.
has with the rest of my bladder. Like spinal cord injury, we are prone to
Yeah.
bacteria in our urine. And I mean, I know for me, I know when it's a problem, like when it's
Exactly.
an infection that needs to be treated because I know from the rest of my body, having lived with it so long. So I do appreciate that my doctor will often listen to me and be like, well, you only need to take it for 3 days or you only need to take it for
Yeah.
this. But she did
Well,
prescribe. Go ahead.
I was at my
Well, when
urologist,
you.
my wonderful urologist
Mhm.
today, and she introduced a new idea to me because I've got constant bladder infections, and that is vaginal estrogen cream. So you can
Ah,
either do it suppository or cream up in
Mhm.
there. And what she says is it changes the pH of your vagina and keeps the bugs from wanting to
Ah,
cultivate.
going over. Very
I thought we
So
were
I
talking
interesting.
about, I thought we were talking about bladders.
I think it all
Well,
goes
yeah,
together, kind of.
oh,
It's
very close.
all in the same area.
they're neighbors. They're very close
Yeah.
neighbors, so they have to live in harmony, and that helps it. Yeah.
Do any of you take D-Manos? The cranberry
Yes,
derivative?
Constantly.
Yeah, I do too, every day.
I
Manos
have
is
times, but if I take it like for a long time consistently, one time I had the worst bladder infection after that. Because my thing is, as Ellen said, we always have bacteria in our bladder
Oh,
constantly. And our body adjusts to a certain amount of it. And I think using at that time the D-Manos, I think it just kind of cleaned my bladder a little too much. So it became extremely irritated and irritable. So that kind of triggered. So there's a balance. And that's the thing. Nobody knows your body more than you do. You know when you start to feel, ooh, that little urge or that little pain. Okay, got to start drinking more water. I have to start doing this, doing that. And sometimes you can just kind of flush it out. And then,
yep.
but then when it goes past that particular stage where it's like, oh, need, I need something, I need some help because it's not going to go away. So it's just, you really have to pay attention to your body and all your little, you learn with the years what's acceptable and what's tolerable to where, okay, it's gone over that threshold and now I've got to deal with it.
Yeah, I
Julianne,
do.
did you have to have a cystoscopy today?
it's scheduled for 2 weeks from today. And I was
So,
delighted to learn that she has um, beds that go up and down now. She used to,
yeah.
I've been going to for about 20
Oh.
years, Dr. Sherry Thomas, love her. She's in Westlake. But she and her girls used to pick me up and get me up on the table. And when I went in today, she got beautiful adjusting tables,
Nice.
all that. And she's a gynecologist and urologist, so you can
Oh,
get
that's good.
everything done at once.
Oh,
That's,
great.
Nice.
that's great.
That's cool.
That's so
Yeah.
hard to find. So hard to find. Do you want to explain what cystoscopy is? Cystoscopy?
Cystoscopy is very hard to pronounce, but it's a pretty simple operation. They fill your bladder with water, and they stick a camera up in there and look around,
All
basically
right.
Oh,
to see if there's any
Ah,
physical reason, like, if it's
yeah.
hanging like this and the bacteria is getting stuck in there, something like that.
Mhm.
Because there could be a physical reason why you get recurrent
Mhm.
bladder
Yeah.
infections.
And the thing is,
Infection.
it is filled past your capacity so that they can get a good look with a camera in there. So that triggers major dysreflexia if you're a quad.
Yeah, it's not
So
comfy.
yeah.
sometimes you need to go under in order to have that procedure because it is important. And you were talking about, physical reasons why you might be, backed up and all of that. I was reading an article, a source that I found at the ChristopherReeve.org, and they have a great resource on bladder management that it goes from explaining how the whole process works and how the SCI affects it and all of that. So if you have a chance to look that up, it's really a good resource there. And so I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought going through.
I'm just going to
And
interject quick. I had to have
yeah,
bladder stones removed a few years ago after
ah,
cystoscopy. So I found bladder stones in my bladder, and that
good,
wasn't a very invasive. I mean, it was
yeah,
invasive, but it wasn't difficult because I
yeah.
don't get AD at all, fortunately.
Oh, you don't. Yeah,
So
you don't get the
yeah,
dysreflexia is a pain, and I think Goldman was talking about the Gemtesa is expensive, but he has a great health plan that helps pay for it. But again, the different medications that can help with bladder,
hmm,
it's very individual. What works for one person doesn't. So and even the over the counter, like I love the Demanos, but I only take it when as Michelle says, I'm getting that twinge, like
that
oh, or
yeah,
there's a again, this is talking about bodily functions, a smell that you're like,
yeah,
that's not a happy smell coming out of there,
yeah,
so I need to be doing something. And then my back when I had a partner, um, and we had sex, they gave me 25 milligrams of microbib to take after intercourse to make sure, because again, as we said, they're all neighbors down there, and they
yeah,
shouldn't share what they do, and they do impact
yeah,
each other. So
exactly.
if you're really rocking the house there in one area, you might need to take. So I would take that
Yeah,
after, and that kept me because for a while there I was getting consistent bladder infections after intercourse, which is like then like you're like, well, I forget it. Is it really worth it? I don't
yeah,
know. Or
yeah,
They gave they gave you macrobid because macrobid works well against E. coli, and E.
yeah.
coli is in poop. And as we said, everything's down there all together.
yep.
And that's
While I
the
was
thing. They all affect each other, your vaginal health, your bladder health, your bowel health. And
Yep.
if you have a bowel impaction or something, that also affects your bladder and your ability to go. So it's all there, all working together.
Yeah, you really, and you
and
have to be able to talk about it and share it. I mean, bladder health is really important. I will say, with my ex, that was one of the things. Like initially, right after I had met him and we had intercourse, and I'd gotten an infection,
Yeah.
I sat up because when you have an infection and you have to go, there's no transferring. Like we
Yeah.
cannot run to the bathroom in 5 seconds. It's like I gotta sit up, I gotta transfer, I gotta go over and when I had an accident, I was just humiliated.
Mhm.
I wanted to hide in the bathroom for forever. And he
Mhm.
came in and washed my hands. Like it's cool. It's not, this. It's
Do
just
it all.
a person, and that was one like being with somebody that can understand. I mean, for anybody that's aging, whether you have an impairment or not, all of our bodies are gonna, have accidents at some point in time. And can you be with somebody that doesn't shame you or make you feel bad or
Yeah.
is
Deal with
disgusted by it, because we're already dealing with our own emotional baggage from being
exactly.
told we're bad for having wet the bed or wet our pants. And
Correct.
so to have a partner reinforce a negative about that is awful. To have them totally just understand it can be, important. And then you take precautions. So, I always,
Well,
if I was having intercourse, would have a pad down so that
I was
if
just going to ask that. I was just going
Exactly.
to ask that.
always,
Wait a minute. Let me put the checks down first.
No.
I go, what are you talking about? We're not in
I
a
always just
hospital.
feel more comfortable. I mean, I actually have a nice one that I got on Amazon that's not like it's washable, it's nice. But I
Yeah,
have it on my bed all the time because
all the
I don't
time.
want to worry about it. Right when
Exactly.
in the middle of the night, if something hits me and I can't get out, I don't. To me, it's just now. It's like an insurance policy. I
There you go.
rarely
Yeah.
ever have an accident ever, and I
Good to
could
have
probably
that.
go without it. But I'd rather have the insurance policy there because changing your whole bed and your whole. I mean,
Bed
that's the thing. Like if you have
mess.
an accident during
Yes.
sex, like now I got to change all the sheets. Screw that. Like it's just
Yeah.
throw one thing in the laundry and we're done. And so
Now,
it's but you have to talk about that.
have you guys seen any of the new technology that they're coming out with? Of course, more for men than for women, but there are the wraparound systems that you can just go and it'll soak it all up. There's one for men. Quick Change, I think, is the brand name. I can't remember
They had
quite.
that at the expo, didn't they?
They had those
I,
at the expo. Now they've got kind of a similar thing for women, and besides soaking up, it will go ding, 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 and tell you that, hey, you're getting leakage right now in
Oh,
case you
wow.
can't feel it. I was like, well, doesn't that kind of make sense?
that's what that's
I
funny.
can't tell if I'm leaking
It
until
really
Oh
till
it's
yeah,
till
no,
too
I have
late,
this
folks.
condition, so I absolutely always know, and getting over that sort of like, which is why I always even wear my protective. I mean, I insurance policy. I don't want to have to worry about it if I'm in the middle of
Mhm.
teaching and all of a sudden I'm like, oh shoot.
Yep.
I'm
Yeah,
like, well, it's fine. I will take
you're
care of it
good.
when I
Yeah,
get there.
when you're done.
But you have to have
Well,
partners, right?
I wear pull-ups, I'll admit. My mom started wearing them, and she's 91. I thought, you know what? Those are better than pads because pads slip around.
Yeah.
When
Ah,
you're moving
When you
around,
transfer, makes sense. Yeah.
and
They make
pull-ups are
very
great.
nice ones now.
Yeah, I get them
Yeah.
at CVS, and so I mean, I
There
don't
you go.
feel ashamed to say
Okay.
I wear pull-ups.
oh
All
no,
right,
I'm
ladies, the
totally.
big taboo now, capping while you're on your period. It's like,
Oh,
wow. That's a whole other ball game here that
yeah,
That's for the
yeah.
younger women. They don't. They can talk
Yeah,
about that
exactly.
still. We're all
exactly.
No,
over
Well, yeah,
it.
but they can learn from what we learned along the way, and
Well, I took the Depo-Provera shot so I wouldn't have periods after a while.
yes,
That was the
I
exactly.
best thing I
know
That
did.
it
was a
was
lifesaver.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. The
no.
Depo-Provera is an injectable uh um oh my god, birth
It's a
control.
hormone.
And
Mhm.
yeah, you get a an injection. Was it monthly? I forget.
That's a month.
And
Yeah. It's your
and
period.
you stop having your periods,
Right. It was the
which
best
is
thing.
like the best
After
thing.
40 or
Yeah,
something. I thought, I'm
exactly.
not having any more kids. I don't
Yeah.
need to have
And
periods.
then you've got people, as you age and you're going through premenopause or postmenopause, and you get a gush at a time and not just
Yeah,
so there's all these things you have to manage on
we
top
do.
of, just trying
Life,
to, it's messy for some people. Some people can't use tampons or use a tampon. So then you're dealing with the pad and the transfer and the in and out and the changing. It's not fun
Regarding
for everyone.
tampons, there's
Yes.
a new company called Tina, and they have for women who don't have good full hand function, they
Yeah.
have a tampon inserter. They
Mm,
Oh,
tried to make the LA Expo, they couldn't. They're going to be in the New York Expo. But
that's interesting.
nicest bunch of women you're ever going to meet, and they gave me a pin of fallopian tubes. I thought that was unique. Um, but yeah, it's a tampon inserter for women who don't have good hand function.
oh,
Wow, that's
All
interesting.
right,
well, the
a niche item.
technology is amazing. So, I mean, that's the thing. And then thinking. I think one thing about spinal cord injury that taught me is you have to think ahead. You have to think
Oh
ahead of the
yeah,
Exactly.
So
Always.
I've
Yeah.
got bags, I've got pads, I've got catheters, I got a flashlight, I got this, I've got that.
Mhm.
What else do I need? Do I have an extra? I mean, I carry extra underwear, carry extra pants with me every
Yeah.
just because you just never know when something could happen. And
Because the day you don't have those items in your car as a backup is the day you have that accident, and you're just in tears because, oh shit, what do I do now? And I'm an hour away from my house.
yeah,
It's real. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And so when I drive, if I may drive from my chair now, which is good, but if I drive was driving other cars and stuff, I'm always
Yeah.
like, put that washable pad down because if I'm driving and
You
we
don't.
can't stop I don't want to be ruining, like, again, being honest with those other people. Like, I don't want to ruin your car seat. I don't want to ruin a mattress. I want,
Very, yeah,
I have to tell you that this is part of my body.
deal.
I think that when you can tell somebody this is part of your body, if we go back to sex, it's like,
Yeah.
this could happen with my body and we're prepared for it, then the shame of the aftermath is not there because
It
you already
happens
know
before you
and
say
you
anything.
have to
Exactly.
enjoy the experience, because
Yeah.
I think that's the key. I think so many people have sex and it's, going by the script of insert A into B and it's supposed to achieve C, and have all these scripts and standard ideas about it. Whereas I think when you have an impairment and you come to terms with it, you're like, this is how my body works. We need this, we need that. This is what feels good. This is what
Yeah.
doesn't. And you can actually have these conversations. And we become so much more comfortable, especially
Yeah.
after 40 years, with how our crazy bodies function, that that honesty brings another level of
Yeah.
intimacy that I think a lot of people miss because they're trying to follow a script or an idea of what
Exactly.
this is supposed to be.
Now,
And
when you
that's
were
it.
first when you were first injured, was it hard for you to learn how to cath? How to
I did.
self-cath?
So I didn't start cathing until I had Botox. So I did not start cathing until about 6 years ago. I think right
Oh,
And
wow.
35. I
Okay.
could age. So I have sensation and
Yeah.
would do today, but I would have more accidents and like being in a movie theater. And if I chose to sit in the seat instead of my chair, I'd always be worried. Would the
yeah,
pads be enough protection? Because
Or
if you, when my bladder would spasm, it was like, I didn't even drink that much water. I'm like, where is all this fluid coming from that
complete
you
would,
have
yeah.
be soaked and humiliated? But my hand function came back. I'm really lucky that I had not a complete injury and I have probably 90% of my fingers to do it.
Yeah.
But even then, it's hard. I mean, I've dropped catheters and then you have to like get
Oh,
another
yeah.
one and drop them in the toilet. And you're like, don't flush because there's a catheter in the toilet and I have to now get it out.
oh
And,
Right.
yeah.
yeah.
How
And
did
like,
you
please
learn,
remember
Michelle?
not to flush. Remember not to flush.
Yeah. It's all
How
about
long
How
did
about
it
you,
maintenance.
take you to
Michelle?
get your whole hand function, Ellen? Because you really do have a lot of hand function.
Yeah.
Just so spinal cord injury, just how much damage? My spine was
Yeah.
crushed, and so different because it was crushed and wasn't severed. The bones hit different part of the cord. So, like I have a sensation all the way down. Light touch is elusive, deep touch is specific. But I have bladder, and I mean, I have bladder sensation. I was lucky that when I was in the hospital, the doctors, I had a young staff, and they were like, "You want to try to not cath? Let's see how it goes." Right?
Yeah.
Because again, I was like, "No, I'm normal."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You were their guinea pig, huh?
it's all messed up, but
Yeah.
and they let me try it, and so I think that helped me, do. And the Crede worked, but it didn't work amazing. I
Yeah.
If they'd had Botox back when I was younger, I would have been so. I mean, the Botox has helped with the holding, but again, as I get older and it gets harder to transfer,
Yeah.
looking at the other options is not out of my purview, right? Like
Yeah.
I will weigh those options because I think both of you point out it's what suits your lifestyle and how you want to live.
Yeah. And those
And
chair to toilet transfers are not easy. You're transferring onto a hard surface that's, relatively small. There's really nothing to push off of and all of that. And sometimes your chair slides away. Sometimes I've known people who've fallen in
Yeah.
public bathrooms or at home and all of that. And that's hard on your body, just that particular transfer, say 4 times a day. It starts to wear. And then you
Yep.
get to the point to where, I'm hurting my shoulders, I'm hurting my wrists and all of that.
it definitely
So,
hurts the toilet
what?
seat. We go through a lot of toilet seats in this house.
Oh, yeah.
I have
We get
broken
the
so
padded
many
ones,
toilets.
but then toilet seats weren't meant to have this kind of action on it.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
No. And if you're at somebody's house and you break their toilet seat, you're like this.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
I hope you all have padded ones.
Yeah.
yeah, we do.
And I also, mine at home has, I told you, the toilevator, which goes up under the whole toilet. So
Yeah.
mine is an even height, so it's really. I mean, going to the bathroom at my home is super
Yeah.
easy. It's out. I actually was hoping, and I don't know if anybody out there, a portable raised toilet seat, right?
Mhm.
There's nothing. I mean, they're big, and I can't. When I
Yeah.
travel anywhere that I'm driving, I take my raised toilet seat with me because ADA toilets are not the height of wheelchairs. I'm just
No.
so sorry. They're still 5 to 6 inches lift off if you're in somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I carry, when I drive to a hotel, I take my toilet seat with me.
The big plastic
But
one.
when I go to Greece, it's big and it's
Yeah.
hard. And like it's
One
going to
more
take up
thing to
half the
carry.
suitcase. How am I going to do that? Like
Yeah.
somebody invent something that folds up and that's stable. There's
You can
nothing out
use
there that I know of. I
no.
looked. So if
Yeah.
anybody knows or hasn't
Wal-
invented it yet,
Or someone who can
Walmart.
invent, right? Yeah.
yes.
There's one on Walmart.
But does it
Senior
fold?
toilet seat riser.
Yeah, but
It's
it doesn't fold.
it's padded and it's about like this. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
This
size of
one's
a
for
cup.
travel.
It's so big. And the padded ones, the problem with the padded ones is they give way when you push off.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you think
That's
they make inflatable ones?
So hard.
How about
the
inflatable?
inflatable ones. I tried one; it slides all over. It does no. They
Oh
don't
gosh.
stay on the toilet. There's no way to make it stable enough. And again,
Yeah.
when you push off on the inflatable one, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been thinking about it. Like, how will I? I mean, they say the padded ones because you can squash them down when you're traveling. Like, and I might get one to try it in Greece just because even ADA toilets are not really quad friendly.
No.
I
I wish
wouldn't,
I could show you these pictures. There's an elevated toilet seat that has the wings on the side, the arms on the side, so you're not pushing against something that gives in, and the arms fold down.
I'll have to check it
So
out. I'll look at it because
Check it out.
that's one of my things. Again, peeing, we all do it.
Yeah.
But we always have to think about it when you have a spinal cord injury or you have a disability. Like, where am I
Exactly.
going to pee? Is it
When
clean?
I when I
There are
traveled
bathrooms I would rather pee my pants than go in. Like, yeah,
when I
that's never.
traveled when I traveled before, I tried to find hospitals because they always have an accessible toilet.
Yeah.
Bathroom.
good
There you
thought.
go.
That's
Good tip.
very smart.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
do you ever cath in your chair, Ellen or Julienne?
It's hard because it's hard to it's hard to find your urethra in the
Yeah.
chair and get your legs up high enough. I mean, I literally have to put my legs up in a butterfly position
Yeah.
enough to get that. I mean, it's a little tube that you're sticking
Yeah.
inside a little tube. I have done it, but it's not so easy
Not
because
easy.
I mean, you have to get your legs open to find that spot.
Yeah.
And so
Tendency to dribble. Well,
Yeah.
let me tell you how I learned to cath, because I think this is wonderful. It was one of the nurses at Northridge Rehab back in 1996, and she came in, gonna teach you how to catheterize yourself. I was like, and since you're in the hospital, you had to do sterile procedures with the gloves and the betadine and everything else.
Yeah.
And she assured me, you won't have to do this at home. Okay. But she brought in a mirror and she said, you can use this, but if you start to use it now, you're going to be using it for the rest of your life. Let me give you a hint. And she looked at my vagina. She said, your urethra is at 2 o'clock. Now,
Oh.
can you put in a pierced earring without looking? I went, yeah, I can. She said, then you can cath without looking.
Oh,
that's good.
Wasn't that great? So I've been able to cath without looking, and now anybody listening knows my urethra is at 2 o'clock.
There we go.
But
helped me
I
is
just thought
too.
that was superb, and I've taught many women how to cath over the years,
Right?
and
In line.
We're at 12
how we
o'clock.
do it.
Like, isn't it at 12 o'clock? And then you're
No, everybody's different. That's the
is
thing.
it?
Every anatomy is
Okay,
different.
mine is 12 o'clock then because mine is right above. And so there's that when you're cathing. And if you try to do it and you miss, then you're like, there goes that catheter. I got to grab another one. There goes that
Well,
one.
whoever
I mean,
whoever
I miss
Kay
a
is,
little bit.
has anyone ever tried a female external cath like a Uracap? I have not, but I kind of know what they are. At
Somebody look it
least
up. I don't know what that is. Okay. That sounds like that would be kind of cool. Is that so? My daughter is not, I mean, when she camps, she has the little female external thing that you put over, and then it has like a tube out, so you're like peeing like you have your own penis, so you can not pee on all over yourself,
according
right?
Yeah.
according to the internet, it looks like when you're pouring out of a booze
Yeah,
bottle, it's
yeah.
kind of like that, but only the other way around, right?
Yes. It's like
Anyway,
a funnel, like a
Yeah,
funnel, and
funnel
you just put it
thing.
over
Number
the
thing,
part.
yeah.
Yeah, because
And
my
it goes
daughter
right
has
into
one
the
of those
bag.
for camping. she got one, to keep with her when they're out camping. Because, as you know, women, if you are pulling your pants down and trying to pee in the woods, it's not a nice stream like gentlemen
Yeah.
often have.
It's
Your pants are done, so that it sort of that funnel gives you a projectile stream that you're not going to go all over your underwear and all over your feet
for
and
your
pants and
feet.
everything else.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, men have it. They have that nice ability
Yeah.
that
Right.
they
Easy
have that
access
external
to
funnel
everything.
already. So it makes it a little bit easier. Although I think it must be more painful if you intermittent calf as a man. Like
Man.
that
That
sounds
would
like
be my guess too. And I did train myself in my able-bodied days when I lived in Hawaii. I did train myself to pee standing up and to aim it and write my name and all
oh,
that. It
Oh,
can be done.
geez. Very tough.
It's not a
we were
skill I put on my resume, but
fascinated with our bodily functions.
Ellen, I'm like Julienne. I learned how to do it pretty quickly after my rehab. So I knew right where my urethra was. I just could feel where it was. Have you
Yeah.
ever practiced? Because I had to practice. It just a
I think
matter
I
of
have to practice. I've gotten lazy because I carry my little calf kit with my, mirror and my everything else. And
What's
I mean, I
fun enough?
usually find it, but normally I try to look because also here's the thing: if you miss at all, then your catheter you really
yeah.
shouldn't be using it because
Contaminated. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
no, I prefer the sure way if I have to. I know that when I was in Mexico once and we were in a place that the toilet was so low and I couldn't see because it was dark in there even with a flashlight. That was when my
Yeah.
girlfriend was like, "Here, I'll find it for you."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Fine, thanks."
Totally.
That's funny.
That's a good,
Help
yeah,
you
I
have
guess
good
that's
friends.
a good friend.
Yeah.
That's friendship. But I would do the same for them. So I have to practice it. I think I have to get better at it, especially since I'm going overseas. And when you are in other countries, access is, even when they say they're accessible, they're not the same as what we're used to. So,
Yeah.
um,
Exactly.
We're
yeah.
spoiled.
that's a really good note, Ellen, is you should have with you the cath you normally use and the cath with bags, just so that you're
Just in
prepared
case.
for
Exactly.
anything. And then
Mm-hmm.
Mickey's note about finding a hospital or a doctor's office or someplace
Yes.
like that
Very.
is very
Mm-hmm.
smart. Um, be able to get all of your catheters into a bag.
Yep.
Oh,
You
Well,
get
and
it.
I carry, so in my cushion, I carry extra underwear. I carry extra
And
pads.
it's for
the
everything.
airlines are supposed to give you a discount. You should get your bag free of charge to check in.
Oh,
Your,
really?
yeah,
Yeah, because
if
you
you
have
have
to carry
medical
extra
supplies, they're
medical
not
supplies.
supposed to charge you.
So anything that you have, say if you have to, I mean, you pretty much need a whole separate suitcase for
Yeah.
everything that you need to travel, And yeah, they shouldn't charge you for excess baggage. So you just,
That is
yeah,
good to know.
yeah,
Because
Mhm.
I mean, there is literally, then I could bring my toilet seat.
Yeah.
Um, because, because mainly I don't carry it around for like outdoors, but the hotel, I want to be able to,
yeah.
deal with ease at the hotel
And be
at night.
careful there.
And even if I have to go home, and if I have an
Yeah,
accident, I can go home and change it. So that's good to know because you do. I have to, you're bringing catheters, you're bringing pads, you're bringing the pads that you sleep on because I
yeah,
always carry the washable pads that I can sleep on.
exactly. Yeah.
And the toilet seat is the big one. Even if
Mhm.
it's the soft one, it still takes up a chunk of space in your
Space,
suitcase. So
exactly.
if I just have like
Yeah.
a med bag, like my
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah.
You just have to be careful not to have any civilian stuff in there. Because I've had people go through it before and say, "Oh, no, 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 you've got, a pair of socks in here, that doesn't count."
Yeah.
Um, Fine, put it in my carry-on.
Again,
So, but
if
as
you
long as
figure the
everything in
extra,
there is medical, it goes free.
Mhm.
Oh,
yeah.
good to know. So I'll just make a little med bag.
Yeah. I mean, put everything in there. The wipes, I'm sure if you have to take
Yeah,
suppositories or what you need,
yeah.
hand sanitizer, just everything in there. Yeah.
That I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, I think if I did a big backpack, it would carry it all. So
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
then I could, I will tell them that that's medical because I really only get one bag.
Yeah.
Like on
Yeah.
flights, you're like, I already paid extra to have one bag. I'm like,
One bag, right? Yeah.
I don't know, and then we have to bring extra clothes. But if I do a med bag, I could pack all my stuff in one bag, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's adding that med stuff to your one bag that just limits what you
Yeah.
can bring.
Yeah. Other stuff. There you go.
And something new every day. Thank you.
Kay
Yeah.
says
Somebody
you just have to tell them it's medical supplies. I
Yeah.
literally bring like a
Oh,
folding commode the size of a walker, and it's always free.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is
Cool.
awesome to know. Okay, thank you so much. That's
Bold.
awesome.
There you
Yeah,
go.
we
That
need what
that
we
can be
need.
your travel bag, and you just come home and refill, and then it's ready to go for the next one. So,
Yes, yes,
yeah.
that is good.
Hmm.
And it is good to have it all in one. I mean, I like it all in one space where I can
Yeah.
get to
Right.
Exactly.
everything. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the
Well, if
key.
nothing else, I think we've learned a few things because it's about time to sign off now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to thank you all for joining us.
Next, what is it
Lots
next
and
month?
lots to
Oh,
learn.
mothers being mothers. May.
Mother's Day, pregnancy.
Yes.
Oh, and I'm
Yeah.
going to be at the New Jersey show, so I'll be joining you from New Jersey.
Oh,
Nice.
good.
Awesome. I will be
Yeah.
home by our date and from Greece. So
May.
I will be
We,
back from Greece. But we'll talk
Ooh.
about that pregnancy and birth and dysreflexia
and
and
we'll have
breast.
to hear about your trip, and we'll have to hear more about Julienne's experiences as Miss
Yep.
Wheelchair California.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Okay,
awesome.
bye
So that's
guys.
May 2nd, right?
May
The first
2nd.
Thursday
Thank
in
you
May,
all
May
for
2nd.
coming.
Yes.
Larry, Black
Bye.
Olive, Goldman,
There's our,
Kay,
look at our
See our
sponsors.
sponsors.
Yes.
Fernandez. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And our sponsors, Juliana.
Mobility professionals, Don Wood. Urology professionals, also Don Wood. And
Awesome.
Monica. They're great people, and they really know what they're doing. So if you need any kind of DME, go to them.
Yep, and
Great.
urology supplies. Check out, there is always new stuff coming out, and the urology professionals know all the new different catheters, the new, what is there and what you need because you get used to using the same thing when there
Yeah.
might be something new that
Yeah.
will meet your needs better. So,
Talk to your friends. Yeah.
out.
Because friends
Aldi,
may be using something different, something that you maybe have never thought of trying. And hey, what works for you? What do you use? And sometimes they, turn you on to something new that works better than what you're already using. Nothing, you don't have to stick with the same thing. There's always new and better, new and improved out there. All
There
right.
is. Thank you
all
all.
right.
The
This
female
was fun,
anatomy.
girls.
I will have a great time in Greece, Larry, and let's get together for coffee soon.
All right.
Absolutely.
I'm
All
glad
right,
we
guys, thank
educated.
you so
I'm
much.
glad we. I'm glad we educated Levi about the female anatomy.
I think he knows. He
Thank
was
you,
nice.
Leah.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you for the.
Yeah,
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
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 Take care.
Bye.